All right, so now let's talk about how we classify polynomials, meaning like what we call them. So they're named using two components, degree and number of terms. Degree is the exponent of the variable, and in a polynomial, it's whichever term has the greatest degree. That's the degree of the polynomial. And we have special names for those. If something has a degree 0, right? And remember that means like the x is raised to the 0 power, which is the same thing as saying 1. So you won't see the x anymore. So 1 is a constant. Any just regular number, 10, -3, those are all constants. Linear is when the degree is 1, so x to the 1. But if you remember, when there's a 1, you don't need to write it. You could just say x. Or you could have a coefficient, 3x. Or you could have the biggest degree term is linear, but then you can have a constant with it. Quadratic is being raised to the second power, so like x squared, or again, you can always have any kind of coefficient, -5x squared, or x squared plus 2x minus 4, as long as the biggest degree is x is to the second power. Degree is 2. Cubic is the third power. I'll just give you what that would look like. Quartic is the fourth power, and quintic is the fifth power. Anything bigger than that, even honestly, starting with quartic and quintic, people often just say 4th degree, 5th degree, but definitely I would just say 6th degree. And again, you could have polynomials all with these, plus 2x squared minus 3x plus 1, as long as the biggest degree is that. And think of cubic, like a cube is 3 dimensions. A quartic, a quart is, quarter is a fourth of something. Quintic, like quintuplets, right? So that's those words mean in relation to polynomials. Some things I noted, I just want to be super clear about. If a term has the degree of 0, right, there is no x because x is 0 is 1. So that's known as a constant. So in this polynomial, that part right there is the constant. If a variable has a degree of 1, like I said, you don't need to write the 1 exponent. So 3x to the 1 is the same as 3x. Okay, the other way we can classify polynomials is by the number of terms. So if it only has one term, it's known as a monomial. Think of like a monocle or a monopoly. The prefix mono means 1. Binomial has 2 terms, right? So x squared and plus 5. And terms are always separated with a plus or a minus. Okay, think of bicycle, that means 2. Okay, trinomial, tri means 3, like triangle. So 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. And more than that, you just say the number of terms. All right, next, standard form. So some of the polynomials we've looked at have not been in standard form. To be in standard form, the terms need to be arranged so that the exponent, the degree, is in decreasing order, so highest to lowest. So you see we have the cubic term first, then quartic, then linear, then constant. Your constant will always be at the end, if there is a constant. That's how you put it in standard form. So some of your Delta Math problems today will say that you have to write your answer in standard form. So that's all that means. Get it in the right order. And leading coefficient, once it's in standard form, the first term, meaning the biggest degree term, is known as the leading term, and then the coefficient of that term is known as the leading coefficient. It has a special name just because it has relevance later when we get into graphs of like certain cool properties based on the leading coefficient. For now, you just need to be able to recognize that is the leading coefficient. And like we already said, the constant term would be the one without a variable. And lastly, like terms. Okay, the next step is going to be adding and subtracting polynomials, but you can only add and subtract like terms. So like terms have the same variable raised to the same exponent. So for example, 2x, -7x. They both have an x, and they're both raised to the invisible 1 power, right? These would not be like terms, 2x and -7y, because they're different variables. Same idea as x squared, like terms, not like terms. Okay, so you're going to now go back on the next slide of your Nearpod. I actually gave you some of these slides to help you see the notes, and then you're going to do a check your understanding on the Nearpod. Of course, reach out if you have any questions.